Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا من فضلك علما تعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So he says هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا ثم استوى إلى السماء. So we were talking about this word istawa. What does that even mean? So you say istawa kada wa kada, mean they're on the same level. They are balanced. They are in line with each other, right? You say sawaytuhuma fastawaya. I straightened the two of them so they became straight and parallel with each other, right? Here when it says thumma stawa ila sama, it's not that something straightened Allah, hashahu, right? It's not like something straightened Allah fastawa, so then became straight, right? That doesn't make any sense. But you say something like istawa as-sahmu ila al-gharad. The arrow went straight, like it didn't go right and left to the target, right? So it's something to that effect. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned his direction. Even you say the word then, right? Why is it metaphorical if I said then Allah turned his attention, right? How is that all metaphorical? Then Allah turned his direct intention to the sky. Does Allah need to, does then apply to Allah?
No.
So that's metaphorical. He turned his attention. What was he oblivious or something? A'udhu billah, right? But that's the general sense, right? Thumma, and then after that, he turned his intention. He focused on that thing, right? Ila sama, to the sky, fasawwahunna, and made them 7 heavens. So here in Arabic he says, thumma stawa istiwa'an yaliqu bihi, right? He says, then he became level, a becoming level that is appropriate to him. So this is a phrase that we'll hear different people use. And so what Salafis will use is they do what's called tafweed mutlaq. Tafweed mutlaq is where you say something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they just leave it as it is, right? Tafweed, I leave it to Allah what it means, mutlaqan, without any qualifications whatsoever. So if you say, for example, in the last third of the night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends to the lowest heaven. Okay, what do you mean by he descends to the lowest heaven? Allahu a'lamu bi muradihi. Allah knows best. Nuzulan yaliqu bi jalalihi. Right, a descent that is appropriate with his augustness. That's the language they'll use. Or for example, nasallaha fanasiyahum. They forgot Allah, and so Allah forgot them. Nisyanan yaliqu bi jalalihi. A forgetfulness that is appropriate to his augustness. Right? Can you notice the sarcasm in my voice? So when you say nisyanan yaliqu bi jalalihi, right? A forgetfulness that is appropriate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's wrong with saying that? لا يليق أصلا. Right? It's not. It doesn't. It's not. It's like so. The problem they have a problem is what's the problem with tafweed mutlaq? Is tafweed mutlaq is you are saying things that in principle accept shockingly bad things, right? So you say, for example, غضب الله, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala became angry. غضبا يليق بجلاله, right? So when you say an anger that is appropriate to him, are you saying تغير? Is that what you're saying? Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala تغير تغير يليق بجلاله? Are you trying to say that he changed? Because that's when I become angry, I'm as a change, right? I've changed from happy to sad, sad to angry. There's a change. Are you trying to say عرض عليه عرض? Are you trying to say something dwelled within him that was created like a something that's عارض, something that is created in time? Are you trying to say that there's something became a part of Allah that wasn't part of Allah? Because that's how it is with me, right? Imagine, for example, the first time a child becomes angry, right? The first time a baby ever experienced the emotion called anger, right? That's something that didn't exist. So what are you saying then? And they say, خلاص, أمروه كما جاء. They say, the Salaf just said, أمروه كما جاء, leave it as it is. So here's the problem, and you can see the examples I'm giving, like it's problematic, right? And a better example of this is we see Ammar walking down the street with a crate of beer. Okay, he's got this like 6-pack of beer, right? And Sheikh Mahmoud and I were like looking at each other and then looking at Ammar and looking at each other, look at Ammar, and we just roll up, shrug our shoulders and walk on. Is that halal? Like, is it halal for us to have a non-opinion? Like we did tafweed mutlaq, like Ammar is carrying some beer and just leave it like that. Is that halal? Because if you shrug your shoulders, that means in principle, Ammar could be going to drink it. Could be given to somebody else to drink, or he could be throwing it away, right? So what is my obligation towards Ammar, right? Forget Ammar, but I'm just saying a generic religious Muslim, right? Ammar himself, another question. I'm saying but like the generic religious Muslim is walking down the street with a crate of beer. Like, what's your obligation towards that person?
Nasiha.
Nasiha. Okay, no. In terms of to assumption, could you say can you assume that he's going to drink it? Husn al-dhan. So husn al-dhan means what? I'm assuming he's not going to drink it. Right?
Mm-hmm. It may be a delivering to someone.
Something, I don't know, something else, getting rid of it. But is it permissible for me to just have a non-opinion to say Allahu
Mm,
Alam? Is that permissible? Is that permissible? Can I just say, oh, Allahu Alam, right? Like
maybe,
Ammar,
yes.
would you be offended? Would you be offended if I said that about you? Like, look at it like, yeah, Allahu Alam, and Sheikh Mahmoud is with you later on. He said, yeah, if we saw you in that situation, he just said Allahu Alam, right? Meaning we don't know if he's religious or not. Maybe he
Okay,
is
if
going to
we
drink it,
know, if we know each
right?
other, like if I know Sidi Ammar,
Yeah, we know each other. So the
so
default is
then
any religious Muslim, you
definitely.
have husn al-dhan, meaning I don't know the whole picture. There's tafweed, meaning I don't know what's going on. I don't need to know what's going on, but I know he's not going to drink it. So that's called tafweed muqayyad. I don't know the specifics. Where did it come from? Where is it going? What's the story? I don't know and I don't need to know. But I know that he's not going to drink it. Tafweed muqayyad, right? Um, my wife has if somebody calls up my wife and the name comes up and it says Muhammad Amin. So, so right, there's a man's name comes up my wife's number and it actually comes up as a name, right? So obviously has it saved. So then, and so then she's like, "Are you gonna ask me about this?" I'm like, "No." So why? Just trust you. Khalas. Like, I don't know what the story is. You do things, I don't know, whatever. It's not a big deal, right? So that's tafweed muqayyad. Like, there's nothing suspicious, and khalas, it's fine. But imagine, for example, she asked me, and she says, I said, and she's explaining, like, oh, by the way, um, this is somebody from at work or whatever. I said, well, who knows, right? So you say that about your wife, who knows, right? How would you feel if your wife said that about you? Someone like you, who knows, right? It's tafweed mutlaq. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying you're doing something vicious. I just don't know. That's it. So tafweed mutlaq is like that. Like you're allowing. Here's this whole spectrum of things that you're allowing. So are you saying that you accept tajsim, like in principle? You think, oh, I'm not saying anything. I'm not committing. So in principle, you are accepting tajsim then, right? You're saying that Allah could possibly have a body. He's saying that I'm not saying anything. Okay, so you're not going to say that Allah doesn't have a body. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a problem. You're not going to say Allah doesn't move. you're not going to say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't change. You're not going to say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not composed of parts. Okay, that's a problem. So with Ahl Sunnah, what do we say? We do tafweed muqayyad. And that's how we understand the quotes from the Salaf. The way that we understand the Salaf is different. Is the Salaf did tafweed muqayyad, which is, I don't know what it means. Right? نزولا يليق بجلاله استواء يليق بجلاله وليس لله جسم ولا يتحرك ولا يتحرك ولا ينتقل ولا يأخذ حيز من المكان وليس له جسم وليس له جوارح ولا يعرض عليه الأعراض right لا تحل به الأعراض like states don't overcome him like anger like sadness like motion like heat like coolness that doesn't overcome him and Allah knows best right so that's called tafweed muqayyad tafweed mutlaq is something else right and then there's ta'wil which is it means X right it means X right so this is where the debate is right that's where the debate is so the Salafi does not identify as a mujassim, right? He does not say, I think Allah has a body. He doesn't say that. He understands, he identifies himself as other than a mujassim. He knows mujassima, but the issue is that the Salafi sees Ahl Sunnah, Asharis and Maturidis as Mu'tazila. We just kind of like, we're like kind of neo Mu'tazila, right? That's how they see us, basically. Does that make sense? So it's quite simple. Like I really like I'm not into kalam. I'm not a kalami person. I don't get it. I don't really see the point of it. I just think it's very silly. And just basically a simple 10-hour course in kalam, that's basically all you need. Don't really think it's that important. But some people unfortunately are not very intelligent. You know what I'm saying? Like some people they will do things, or they actually have tasawwarat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like they're actually in their mind, right? And Al-Izz ibn Abd Salam, he mentions this in his Qawaid al-Kubra. He says that, that the tajsim is kind of overlooked for the awam because it's hard for them to think of anything that's not a jism. When you think about Allah, they maybe think of like light, right? So now if you ask them, is Allah light? They're like, no, 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 Allah's not light. Does Allah have a body? Like, no, 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 Allah doesn't have a body. Does Allah have a hand? No, 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 it's not like that. They don't say that, but in reality, they can't really think of Allah in any other way. And that's also a kind of a spiritual problem. Like it's kind of difficult to even spiritually think of something that's not a physical object. So he said, like, if they're overlooked for that tajseem, that unintentional tajseem, right? But the issue with some of these people is that they're actually they're basically mujassima, but they don't say it. Like the way they think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different to what Allah is. And it is kind of problematic. Right? Does it make sense, inshallah? So that's this phrase here, yaliqu bihi, that's that whole discussion. And I can't remember Dr. Wahb Zahid, I think he's kind of, I don't know what his stance was actually. I don't know how Ashari he was. Not really sure if he actually identifies as Ashari or not. Not really sure. Maybe someone can research it. Okay, so Bismillah, go ahead, Ammar. Wallahu wahdahu.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا الله بعلمه وعلمكم آمين. والله وحده هو الذي خلق لكم جميع ما في الأرض للانتفاع به من حيوان ونبات
Bro, who are
وجماد.
you calling a حيوان and stuff? Joking.
أنزلكم الله. من حيوان ونبات وجماد وغيرها ثم استوى استواء يليق به. والاستواء الارتفاع والعلو على الشيء فعدل وأتقن خلق سماوات خلق سماوات سبع على أحسن وجه
Mhm.
فلا اعوجاج.
So here's another issue is, for example, I remember Sheikh Hamza Karmali talking about this. It's like you look at these verses that have iham of tashbih, right? They give a sense of tashbih, moving. Like let's example, right? The hadith about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descending to the lower heaven in the last third of the night. The hadith is A, about how Allah moves. B, why Asharis are kuffar. Or C, bro, do some istighfar. You know what I'm saying? Like you've totally lost the balagha. You know what I'm saying? Like you've lost the balagha, right? You are putting your hand on the Prophet ﷺ's hand, and you're like, I am willing to die. I'll do it. And he says, Inna alladhina yubayi'unaka innama yubayi'un Allah. Yadullahi fawqa aydihim. Right? And you're thinking like subhanallah, like it's as if I am holding Allah's hand, and it's like my hand, and it's as if the hand of the Prophet that's over my hand is Allah's hand. Like this is a bay'ah of Tawheed, a bay'ah of Allah. I'm giving bay'ah to Allah. You know what I'm saying? And now you start thinking about, does Allah have a hand or not? Like, bro, that is just not what it's talking about, right? That's not, or بل يداه مبسوطتان ينفق كيف يشاء, right? بل يداهم, they're saying that Allah is cheap, and Allah is saying He is not cheap. It is not to do with hand or no hand, or whether the hand is open or closed. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you've just totally butchered the whole balagha, right? ثم استوى على العرش, right? No. What is it? الرحمن على العرش استوى. Like, what's the rhetoric here, right? You're saying Ar-Rahman istawa al-arsh. Like, that's like saying, how do you explain it? It's like saying, it's like astaghfirullah, no tashbih, but like, Snoop's in the house, right? So whether he's in the house or not, the point is like, here we go. This person with all his characteristics is now here to do what he's going to do, right? Like the Rahman has now taken control, right? And now Rahma is going to be everywhere, right? That's the point. It is not a point whether it is the istiwa or not, or which side of the throne was he sitting on. You know what I'm saying? Or like what was the how balanced forces of the weight going up and weight and whatever, and forces going like how does the chair stay in its place? You know what I'm saying? Like you just totally lost the balagha. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not talking about whether or not he's a body, or whether or not he's level, or whether or not he's sitting, or whether it's like, what are you talking about? What he's saying is فعدل وأتقن كل خلق السماوات على أحسن وجه فلا اعوجاج فيها, right? This how amazing this thing is, right? And he made it perfect. He didn't just make it سواهن, not خلقهن, not جعلهن, سواهن, made them سوية, made them perfect, right? That's the point, and it's for you, right? And he knows all the details about this. He's the Khaliq al-Alim, right? Al-Khallaq al-Alim, right? So it's just like, what are you talking about? يدبر الأمر, right? What's that verse?
There's multiple. إن
No, but
ربكم
there's
الله
one like
الذي
that.
خلق
It's like,
السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش يدبر الأمر ما من شفيع
exactly. So
ولا من داع
notice
إلا.
there's no wow. Like that's
Mhm.
like a colon, right? And so I say, I say, for example, uh, I say something like, I don't know, what's my phrase? I can't think. Uh, like I can't think of an example, but you like when you don't have a wow between two sentences, that's like a colon, I guess, right? So you say, for example, I really don't like you, I really don't like you. You That's not a good example. That's explanation. But I'm saying where you paraphrase something with a colon. So um, paraphrase something with a colon is example of right. So بل يداه مبسوطتان ينفق كيف يشاء. Right. So his two hands are outstretched. Colon. He spends and however he wishes. Right. So one is a paraphrasing, is a repetition of the other. Right. There's no wow. It's not and. Right. So one is the other. Right. So you're saying yudabbir amr is a paraphrasing of the previous thing. It's not talking about خلق السماوات والأرض في ستة أيام ثم استوى على العرش يغشي الليل النهار, right? He is the one who does these things, right? So this lack of the wow says that this is a paraphrasing, right? This is phrased as this. So his istiwa al arsh is total control, paraphrasing total control. So he makes night go into day and day into night, he's in total control, right? So it's like one is the other. So my bigger point is, are we talking about whether Allah is like a human or not, or are we talking about the power of Allah, or why you should fear Allah, or how great Allah, what Allah can do? And so it's like, what are you talking about? Right? So here, this verse is not even talking about whether Allah is up or down, or is he on a chair or not on a chair. That's not what it's talking about. He's saying, look, you were dead, he gave you life, and he alone is the one who created every single thing, and he created it for you, and he created the heavens and the earth. He knows everything about it. So how are you going to behave? Right? That's the point. So you totally lost the whole rhetoric. No, that fa is different. ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُوهُ. That's different. Because it says, so, worship him. That's different. But for example, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, in terms of balagh, right? Yeah, so the point is, yeah, okay. Okay. So anyway, so that the point is losing the whole plot there. Okay, so it says, وَالسَّمَاوَاتِ هِيَ الْمُرْتَفِعَاتِ.
والسماوات والسماوات هي المرتفعات الشاهقات ذات الطبيعة المخالفة لطبيعة الأرض.
Yeah, so he's saying, what does it mean by as-samawat? He says things that are up, right? So it doesn't mean heaven. So we translate it as the heavens, as in Jannah. It doesn't mean Jannah. It just means things that are high up, right? Whatever is other than Earth, that's considered. So in principle, right, the sky starts from what we have our feet on Earth, but we are walking in the sky in principle, right? The sky starts from where we are and up. Like this is what sphere is this? This is the what the one that we're in, the stratosphere, and we're in the what? Basically, from the ground up, it's called something sphere. I can't remember what it's called. But so it's a continuum, basically, it's a continuum of things that go up. That's the point. So it says, well, وَالسَّمَاءُ مَا يُقَابِلُ الْأَرْضِ, right? It means, it doesn't mean like the clouds.
Troposphere.
Right? It means what is not Earth. As in Arabic, كُلُّ مَا عَلَاكَ سَمَاء. Everything that's above you is called sama. Right? وَاللَّهُ عَالِمٌ.
والسماء ما يقابل الأرض والله عالم بجميع أموركم وأحوالكم وبما خلق في الأرض وفي السماء. والآيات
تدرجت. They've gone up in levels.
والآيات تدرجت من من ذكر المبدأ والمنتهى إلى بيان البرهان على البعث إلى توجيه النفوس نحو الإيمان بسبب
One more time. توجيه النفوس.
إلى توجيه النفوس نحو الإيمان بسبب
نحو, right? In the direction of نحو. That's the ظرف, right?
نحو
مشيت
الإيمان
نحوك. I walk towards you. Right?
إلى توجيه النفوس نحو الإيمان بسبب تفرد الله بالقدرة على الخلق والإعادة.
Yeah. So here he's not really paraphrasing anymore. He is explaining what's going on. He added this little bit here, right? التفرد. Allah is alone in these things. Okie dokie. Give me just 1 second. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Yusuf, inshallah. So we're going to probably stop at 1/4 past the hour or something like that, guys. Because we started late today.
I'll have to pray Maghrib inshallah, but that should be fine.
That's fine, yeah. Okay, go ahead, Yusuf.
واذكر أيها النبي لقومك حين قال ربك.
Yusuf, you're very quiet. Either you're very tired or you're away from the microphone or something. I'm on full volume.
Let me try a headphone, maybe, I'm not sure. Okay.
I read Ustad meanwhile.
Yeah, go ahead, read. Yeah, so not.
Should I read the ayah first?
Please, yeah. No, that's fine.
Okay.
واذكر أيها النبي.
واذكر أيها النبي لقومك حين قال ربك للملائكة
للملائكة.
إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة خليفة هو آدم.
هو آدم. Who? Yeah. So I will. So Khalifa. So Khalifa is a bit tricky word. It means somebody who will stand in your stead, right? So in principle, linguistically, it could mean somebody who's going to stand in Allah's stead, like it's a na'ib, right, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or it's a substitute representative, or it also means somebody who's going to be following on from one another, right? So I'm gonna create upon earth a procreating system of people who will follow one another, right? That's Khalifa. Right? So Khalifa can mean the person you put on earth that takes your stead, or one who will one that will one who will be there and will follow on of each other. Yeah. And subhanAllah, was ajib, Sheikh Mahmoud, you're married, right?
Yeah.
Like life and procreation is something. It's something that's it's pretty crazy to think about it. Like the other day, I was just driving down the road and I saw this chicken, and the chicken has a little chick. This little tiny chick, and this chick is right next to this huge garbage truck. Like the garbage truck is, I don't know how to do the math, but I guess millions of times its size. I don't know. The chick is, is small, and this garbage truck is huge. And I was like, subhanAllah, like the garbage truck could totally destroy this chicken. Like just one tiny accidentally drives into it, just kills it. So one is so much greater than the other. But the chick has a potential, at least, to procreate and have other chicks. And those chicks could have other chicks. And those chicks could have other chicks. Like it's something that's you can't it's hard to even imagine. The mu'jiza of life and procreation. How is this thing that life that makes other life? It's something that is my brother, he's for those of you, he's he's a scientist and he's a mathematician and and practicing Muslim. And so like he says, like atheist scientists will say, give me one miracle, or give me two miracles, I'll explain the rest. Like, where does existence come from? Like the Big Bang and stuff like that. Where does that come from? I don't know. Where does life come from? Right? So like, as a biologist, like, yeah, you deal with life, you're talking about life, but you don't know where life comes from. And it really doesn't make any sense how it could come from anything. Right? So that's Khalifa, something that will, here's a chicken that we follow by another chicken, that we follow by another chicken, that we follow by another chicken. Right? Subhanallah. Okay, so he says, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifatan huwa Adam.
استخلفته في عمارة في عمارة الأرض وفي تنفيذ أحكامي.
Yeah, وفي تنفيذ. So this is a key concept. Sheikh Ali Hani mentioned that, like every basically mufassir, depending on his background, will explain this word khalifa in a different way. So the Sufis have a very kind of like metaphysical understanding of it. Ikhwan Muslimin, right? Key concept here is imarat al-ard, right? Like, imagine for example, Ikhwan Muslimin reacting to Muslims over the last 500 years. You're not doing anything. All you care about is ibadah. All you care about is random fiqh scenarios, explaining this, explaining that, philosophical things that have nothing to do with practical life. Here, look at the West, how they've focused on the dunya and they've done things like, developed technology and created factories and this and this and this. And so then they switch it and say, actually, when you say inni ja'iluka fil ardi khalifa, it means we're making somebody whose responsibility it is to go and do dunyawi things. Like, the Muslims are supposed to make factories, are supposed to develop technology, are they supposed to build things, do things, right? This is actually the role of Adam, right? So that Ikhwan Muslimin emphasize things like that more, right? So as we say, right, other people will say it like, no, your Khalifa, meaning your job is justice, right? And your job is to fulfill the Sharia, do the Sharia, right? Various different things. So استخلفته في عمارة الأرض وفي تنفيذ أحكامه فقال الملائكة في نفوسهم
أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها بالشرك وفعل المعاصي وقد علموا ذلك بتعليم الله بوجه ما
بتعليم الله بوجه ما, and they knew that because Allah told them in some way, بوجه ما, somehow. So what he's doing, he's trying to avoid committing to certain tafsirs. So you say, for example, oh, they knew that because there was jinn on earth, and he starts going on a whole story about the jinn. Okay, the whole story about the jinn on earth and how they did this and how they did that and how they were destroyed by the angels. It's weak. So I'm not going to commit to that. I'm not trying to say it's this answer or that answer. Just saying, be watching Matt in some way. Like, I don't need to explain it with a weak hadith. That's what he's trying to say. Like, oh, this whole story. Like, I don't need to do that. He just says, be watching Matt somehow, right? In some way, right? So he's being very, very terse, but he's being very clever at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like he's saying very specific things. Okay, bismillah.
والمعنى تجعل فيها من يريق الدماء والدماء المحرمة بالقتل والأداء والعدوان ونحن شاكرون حامدون لك.
والعدوان and enmity, yeah.
Yeah.
Or wrongdoing as well. It's not just عداوة is more like, you know. ونحن شاكرون حامدون لك وننزهك عما يليق بك. i.e., why on earth would you create an imperfect worshipper when we are perfect worshippers? Why would you do that? قال
قال أعلم ما لا تعلمون أنه سيكون من
سيكون
سيكون من خليفة أنبياء
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 وصالحون.
وصالحون.
Yeah, so how do you know it's أنبياء? Because look, it says صالحون. So it must be أنبياء.
Yeah,
It must be the same, right?
I
Okay,
do the
well,
same.
also, is it also part of the hikmah of Allah that the shayateen of ins, is that also part of the hikmah of Allah? Could you have Musa without Fir'aun? You know, like if nobody abused you and destroyed you and harmed you and imprisoned you and tortured you, how could you be moral? If nobody starved people and bombed people, how could you forgive? How could you be that one person who's if nobody put you in prison for 20 years for no reason, how could you support people in prison and give them hope and show akhlaq and show them tawheed in the darkest places? Like if there were no darkness, how could there be light?
Like the idea, if there is no evil, how will you
Exactly,
define
right?
good?
So this is inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. It's not just I know that there'll be prophets and righteous people, but I know there's a whole orchestra, right? There's a whole orchestra and whole, system of things that are happening, right? And all of these things are part of the picture, right? All of these things are part of the picture. Go ahead. Go ahead, Yusuf.
Okay, we can try again. See if
It's similar. It's fine. I mean, I just put my volume up. There we go. Okay, go ahead, Yusuf.
وعلم
وعلم.
وعلم الله تعالى آدم وعلم الله تعالى آدم أسماء
أسماء.
وعلم الله تعالى آدم أسماء
مسميات.
أسماء المسميات أسماء المسميات والمخلوقات.
Right, المسميات, named things that are named, right?
Yeah.
He taught the names of things that are named, right? والمخلوقات كلها ثم سأل الملائكة.
ثم سأل الملائكة عن تلك الأسماء التي تعلمها آدم
معبرا.
معبرا عنها بضمير العقلاء.
So الطبطبائي, late Shi'i Mufassir, he says that why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Ya Adam anbi'hum بأسمائهم? Why is it أسمائهم? Should be أسمائها, right? Like why is it أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء? Why isn't it بأسماء هذه? Right? ثم عرضهم. Like why is it hum? It should be عرضها, right? So he says why? Because in reality, and Allahu A'lam, this is his opinion. It says because these things that the categories are actually sentient. The categories of being, the category of the spoon, the category of the tree, the category of the human, the category of sin, the category of 5. All these categories in our head, they're actually sentient. There's a realm in which they are actually sentient beings. And this is like Plato's realm of forms. Right? Go ahead, Ammar. Ammar,
Yeah, Shaykhna, I don't think I've seen this in a classical tafsir, but I think Allah. Can you hear me?
I can hear, yes.
Hello?
But you're cutting out. You're cutting out. So you
Okay.
said you haven't seen this in class. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen this in a classical tafsir, but I've seen some people mention that like this is referring to anyway, like when Adam alayhi salam was introduced to his progeny, like he was taught the names of the humans that are to come. I don't know if that's a thing that's found in like
I don't know.
mention.
You know, and it would take a lot of work to say that it's not there. I'm just not familiar with it. That's all. Right. But anyway, so Tabatabai, he has this suggestion on Tabatabai. So they, you know, in general, yeah. So that's his opinion. Wallahu alam. And just as a side note, Sheikh Ali Hani, my teacher, who is definitely not Shi'i and does not tolerate Shi'ism at all, you know, he uses Shi'i tafsir a lot. He's like, I mean, they have insights, you know, they'll have like grammatical insights or things like that. Like he will use various different Shi'is, that things, you know. I don't know if he'd use Tabatabai much, but I'm not sure. But you know, just like in Hadith, we use Ibn Khirash as a Hadith critic. He's Shi'i. Other things come up here and there in Mantiq. Mulla Yazdi, we use him all the time in Kalam and Mantiq and stuff. So one thing is the Shi'ism, the other thing is these ideas, right? The two different things. Wallahu alam. Okay. So anyway, ثم قال أخبروني.
Okay. فقال أخبروني عنها إن كنتم صادقين في أدعائكم.
في ادعائكم.
أو في ادعائكم.
Yeah. In your claim.
إن كنتم صادقين في ادعائكم أنكم أحق
أحق بالخلافة. Yeah.
أنكم أحق بالخلافة من غيركم. فعزوا.
Right. What I was going to say as well was forgot something. Right, and obviously this is a connection. You know, this whole theme in Surah Kahf comes out the concept of knowledge, right? Esoteric knowledge that you can know, knowledge that you cannot know, right? And so even if we look at any non-esoteric knowledge, right, exoteric knowledge, like knowledge that you can know, right? Even those things. Like there are certain things in Islam that are purely worldly knowledge, right? Like knowledge of geography, you know, like you're reading this book, Yaqut al-Hamawi, and this place and this time, and then some Orientalist knows it better than you. Yeah, it's not a big deal. But in general, all of the ulum, because they're connected to revelation, they are all divine and they're all special, and really cracking them is all depending on revelation. So they are all esoteric, or they are all divine in some way, and they all there's something that you will be, if you don't have talaqqi, if you don't have a connection in your science back to the Prophet ﷺ, back to Sayyidina Jibreel, back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you just don't get it, right? So this picture here is like, it doesn't matter what you are, if without revelation you won't know things. So that's why this comes up right at the beginning, this thing about ilm, right? Knowing the unseen, knowing things that you don't know, right? You might think you're this and think you're that, but you don't, you know. So there's lots of amazing things that you can think about, but without receiving knowledge, right? Some knowledge that is tanzil, that comes from a higher realm to a lower realm, you're completely missing out on various things. Okay, this one now. Ammar, are you praying right now?
About to, but I can read this and then go, inshallah.
Yeah, maybe just can you wait 7 minutes? Is that okay? Just till 1/4 past the hour?
It's already been
Oh, you're already late. Okay.
a little bit. Yeah. So
Okay. Okay. I'll just Yusuf can continue then. خلاص.
okay.
I got Yusuf وقالت الملائكة.
وقالت الملائكة بعد إعلان عجزهم وقصورهم
وقصورهم.
يا رب تنزيها لك
Yeah, so this phrase is not super تنزيها لك, right? That means, yeah, right, subhanak, right? So what does that even mean? Right? So if we paraphrase it, so it says, they say قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا, right? They're saying, what does that mean? قالوا سبحانك. It means like this. It means like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking them a rhetorical question, basically, saying, listen, if you're so clever, tell me about these things. So they're saying, oh Allah, we are not so clever. And we have fallen short. And we haven't really fully realized how you work and how great you are. We exonerate you from any defect that we have kind of suggested by questioning you. Does that make sense? Right. It's like, so it's like, that's what it is. So, but tanzihan, like, what does that mean? It's kind of a bit confusing, right? It's kind of, there's not really, but so it's kind of a, it summarizes, subhanak summarizes quite a lot of things, right? When you're saying, how glorified beyond description are you, in that you know things that we don't know and we can't know anything, right? Sayyidina Yunus in the whale, right? What is it? Subhanak inna kunna min inni kuntu min adh-dhalimin. Like subhanak, like what does it mean there? Subhanak, like he's kind of saying, yeah, Allah, like I knew how great you were, and I knew the picture, but I've reached a new level. Now that you've punished me in this way or treated me in this way, I see a new level of who you are. How glorified beyond description are you, and how greater you are than I previously imagined. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you say, somebody says, for example, Allah has a son, subhana, right? Allah has a son. What are you talking about? That's such a defect. Allah's way beyond that, right? Subhanahu. Allah's way beyond that, right? Way beyond having a son, right? Ya Rabbi or Ya Rabbu tanzihan lak la ya'lamul ghaiba.
لا يعلم الغيب سواك ولا علم لنا إلا بتعليمك إنك أنت العليم بكل شيء الحكيم بكل صنع.
Right, all these things, right? So then by a fortiori, a Sahabi, hearing this verse at Fajr, at Isha, and Maghrib, if the angels have that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how should my relationship be with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? أمر
الله آدم بإخبار الملائكة بأسماء المخلوقات التي عجزوا عن معرفة أسمائها فلما أخبرهم بها قال الله تعالى للملائكة ألم أخبركم ألم أخبركم بأني أعلم ما غاب في السماوات والأرض عنكم.
عنكم, right? So when you say غيب, لا يعلم غيب إلا الله, that means nobody knows what they don't know apart from Allah. That's what it means, right? So when you say غيب is nisbi, right? So when you're saying, like when you say Allah يعلم الغيب, means he knows everything, and in relationship to him, nothing لا يغيب عنه شيء حتى فيجهله, right? For me and you, there's something that is absent from me, so I don't know it, right? Whereas, so ghaib is nisbi, it's relative, right? So there's a piece of paper in my hand. What's written on it is ghaib in respect to you, and not ghaib in respect to me. So I say a'lamul ghaib. How do you know the ghaib? It's like, well, what it means is when you say a'lamul ghaib, so when you say only Allah knows the ghaib, meaning only Allah has innate knowledge. No one else has innate knowledge, right? And so that's what it means. Not there's a specific thing called the ghaib. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, subhanAllah. Yeah, I never looked at it like that. ما غاب في السماوات والأرض. Okay. So, وما هو مشاهد
وما هو مشاهد.
وما هو مشاهد.
أنا أشاهدك. I'm seeing you. أنت مشاهد. You are seen. ومشاهد لكم مرئي لكم.
وما هو مشاهد لكم أيضا وأعلم ما تظهرون من أقوالكم وما تخفون في نفوسكم. واذكر أيضا أيها الرسول لقومك حين أمرنا الملائكة.
أمرنا الملائكة.
حين أمرنا الملائكة. حين أمرنا الملائكة.
So now this is the tafsir. So why should you listen to this prophet? Because look, he's receiving revelation, and look how the angels, they receive knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and even if the angels, they don't know things, they have to receive knowledge from Allah. Here's a prophet who's receiving knowledge from Allah, you should listen to him. So now, question number 2, why is it that people don't listen to revelation? Shaitan. Okay. واذكر أيها الرسول لقومك حين أمرنا الملائكة بالسجود لآدم سجود تحية وتكريم لا سجود عبادة وتعظيم. So this is very important. Is the action kufr or is the i'tiqad kufr? Right? So I think we mentioned this in a class the other week. So no, somebody, for example, someone who's extremely eccentric, right? They're really, really eccentric. And so they get the mushaf and they rip it into pieces and throw it in the trash. And say, what are you doing? So I'm showing respect to the mushaf. So how is that respect? Right? So they're just really weird. Like the way that they show respect to things is really strange. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when you say it's kufr to throw the mushaf in the trash, meaning the i'tiqad. So what I'm trying to say is a normal human being who would throw the mushaf in the trash, may Allah protect us and protect it, is normally they can't do that. Psychologically, they can't do that without kufr. And so because that's how the normal things are, assuming all things being equal, I'm going to label you as a kafir if you did that, and that's it, right? So then the judge will label you as a kafir and ask you to enter Islam again, and that's it, right? And if you don't enter Islam again, you're an apostate, right? But it's not the action itself, right? So it's not sujood itself, it's what kind of sujood. Similarly, sujood, if you did sujood to Ronald McDonald, right, and you said, man, I love the Big Mac, you know, I worship Ronald McDonald, and you had a statue of him in your house, and you did sujood to it, put it on Instagram, we would say that it's kufr, zahiran, but not batinan. Batinan, you know, I know you're just having a joke, right, but you can't do that, right? So in our Sharia, if you do sujood to something, we label you as a kafir, even though you're not a kafir, right? Because kufr is i'tiqad, right? Two different things, right? So the Adam as-sujud at-tahiyyatin wa takrim. I've seen people do this in Medina. I was there. Somebody turned their back to the Qibla, right? And they did sujood towards the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. But he's not. I don't believe that person was doing shirk. I believe he's just ignorant, right? That's haram. You have to stop him, of course, but that's not shirk, right? Shirk is that you actually worship the Prophet ﷺ. I don't think he actually was worshipping the Prophet ﷺ. When I do sujood to the Kaaba, do I worship the Kaaba?
No.
No. Right. There we go. So a sujood li makhluq. So I ask a question: is sujood to the makhluq, is it kufr mutlaqan? So yeah, it's kufr mutlaqan. Okay, well then we're all kuffar, aren't we? Because you do sujood to the Kaaba. Yeah, but I don't do it in that way. Okay, there we go. That's what I'm saying. It's not mutlaqan. So what is your intention? So you and I could be praying next to the Kaaba. I do kufr and you don't, because I'm worshipping the Kaaba itself and you're doing sujood to Allah by doing sujood to the Kaaba, right? So this is, it's like these people who like say, no, if you do this, it's kufr. If you do that, that's kufr. And if you live in America, it's kufr, right? And if you pay taxes, it's kufr. And if you stop when the police tells you stop, that's kufr. And if you buy, like, everything's kufr, right? They have this serious problem with understanding fiqh, that what you do and what you believe, right? And this is the mistake of the Khawarij. Okay, so لا سجود عبادة وتعظيم, right? فسجدوا جميعا
إلا إبليس الذي كان من الجن فرفض السجود وتعاظم في نفسه وكان في علم الله كافرا لمخالفته أمر الله تعالى
أمر الله
أو لمخالفته أمر الله تعالى
والله good, yeah, تعالى وتكبره, yeah.
وتكبره عن السجود لآدم.
So notice there's a difference between disobeying Allah before Allah as opposed to disobeying Allah, like may Allah forgive us, like me and you. So, may Allah forgive us. If we do something haram, it's not the same as like doing it in the presence of Allah, because the psychological, what it takes on a psychological level to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His presence is totally different, right? It's kufr, whereas a normal person, what they have to do in order to sin is they have to kind of separate themselves, right, from reality for a bit, right? Like you have to kind of pretend to ignore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like you can't be an arif billah, somebody who is totally in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not possible for them to sin. Psychologically, they can't do that. They could physically sin. I mean, they said something or did something that was wrong, but not intentional. Like, it's not possible. Like, you can't be in the presence of Allah and then disobey Him. It's not possible, right? So here, Iblis is like, in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he disobeys Him. He's like, no, actually, I object. Same thing with the Prophet ﷺ, right? You ask a mufti a question today, and he said, you disagree with him, and you ask all these different muftis, you disagree with them, but you're sitting with the Prophet ﷺ, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, is it good to do this or good to do that? And he says, no, it's good to do this. And you're like, I disagree. It's kufr, right? I mean, obeying is one thing, but like you disagree, like you don't think. He says, would it be better to drink with my right hand or left hand? And he says, right hand. You say, no, I think it's left hand. It's kufr, right? Like you're just not, you're not accepting his risala, or you're not accepting the one who sent him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. Okay, khair, inshallah, I got to stop here. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.